Okay, hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to my channel. I'm going to interview a tarot mentor of mine. She didn't know she was a mentor until I reached out to her. And this is going to be part of just a new series. I haven't really decided on a title, but it's going to have something to do with the temperance card, because that to me is the essence of temperance, is kind of fusing different things together. And even if it's the fusion of a conversation, I feel like we are able to pull in lots of our own influences and just the dynamic action between two people. I feel like is such a temperance thing. I did not pull temperance today. I pulled other cards, but thank you, Madelyn, for joining me. Madelyn has a YouTube channel that I was a devotee of until I switched my YouTube account. And I was telling her before, she just fell off my algorithm. And so I picked her up and put her back on my algorithm. And then I just reached out and asked if she would be open to sharing with the audience of just like her tarot story. So this will just be kind of a slightly structured, but mostly free-flowing conversation about tarot and just about Madelyn's story. So Madelyn, thanks for joining me today.
I am thrilled to be here, Christa. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so I might throw up some card images, but I had some interview questions that we were just going to kind of go through, and then we can just kind of let it go from there. So firstly, can you just share your story with tarot, how you got into it, what your influences are? What was your origin story?
My sister Tori, who's 2 years older than I, introduced me. She gave my first reading, and I was in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
She was in her mid 20s, and I was instantly captured,
Yeah.
and I would start, nagging her for readings. I need a reading.
Mm-hmm.
I need a reading. And then one of my closest friends, who I still read tarot with, Gretchen, she had a deck and she would give me readings. And then I kept nagging her for readings. And so
Mm-hmm.
eventually she just got me my deck. Here's a deck.
Yeah.
And that launched me. And basically, what I did from there is I had the deck, I bought a stack of books,
Mm-hmm.
and you start doing readings, just doing
Yeah.
reading every day and be just an everyday reading. I do a three-carder every day. I've probably done a three-carder every day of my life outside of illness
Mm.
and tragedy, pretty much every day of my life for 35 years.
Yeah.
So it's definitely integrated into a very core practice to my life. And it has just continued from there. I've done, I think, many different variations, just reading for myself, then reading for friends, and you find your voice, you find
Mm.
how you tap into it. And then, I would do some parties. I did some, readings for hire, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lifelong practice. Honestly, I have now moved away from giving readings for
Mm.
others because I think it's an aspect of tarot,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not everything. I mean,
Yeah.
everything just hooks on a reading and reading, getting a reading, and I get readings. I share readings with others, still with Gretchen and another friend, Rebecca. We do seasonal readings like summer, fall, winter, spring. So we meet about 4 times a year, and they are quite well versed in tarot as well. So you can really dive in the deep end.
Yeah.
And then another close friend, Jamie, who's also quite good, and we'll do every so often. I'll get Jamie, I need a reading. She'll come on
Mm-hmm.
over. I went a long way down the road there, but that's how I got started. And
Mm.
I connected with it right away.
So when you do readings with friends, are you reading for each other? Like what's the next season look like? Are you reading like a collectively of like what's going on just with the gestures broadly at the world? Like what does like a seasonal reading kind of look like with your friend group?
Well, we do a reading for each one, and then we interpret each person's spread.
Cool.
And I am a huge fan of. I think there's a great deal of power in personalized spreads you
Mm.
design for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we tend to do. I mean, that just sort of like my question, big question for this, it was just a week ago, was I always do me right now, and then I generally do current state,
Mm.
and then I do best course of action. So it was current state, of me in the world, me in contemporary tarot,
Hmm.
and my family, and me just Madeline, her journey.
Yeah.
A card, best course of action for me in the world,
Oh,
and
and yeah.
then my overall purpose.
Hmm.
And so, and we all riffed on different things.
Hmm.
So I think there's a great deal to be found in, playing with the position. And yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that answered your question.
So it did. Thank you. When doing a three-card spread, like how do you pull just a daily three-card spread just for yourself? And then how would you do you pull three-card spreads when you would give readings to other people, or is that going to be personalized just depending on the context of who's sitting at your table?
I usually when I'm giving readings for others, it's going to be a bigger reading,
Yeah.
just because they're sitting down and it's more of a, structured event,
Hmm.
unless like a recent friend who recently, I was like out the door, said, please give me a reading. I was like, only throw down three cards. You get three cards.
Yeah.
But my morning ritual is a three-card reading, which is me right now, my best course of action, and my purpose. I also
Hmm.
do an each reading, which
Oh,
is
nice.
Chinese practice, which many people,
Hmm.
so I combine those. My husband occasionally gets a reading. Occasionally he'll
Hmm.
grab the deck and, throw down three cards.
Yeah.
So three card is just sort of a personal touchstone for me.
Yeah.
And then when I do others, definitely a larger reading.
Yeah. Are you willing to share what three cards you got today?
Oh yeah, I wrote it. I always write it down. I
Hmm.
got the King of Swords reversed because and that's very much, there's been a lot going on in the world.
Hmm.
And a lot of people around me have had a lot of chaos. So
Hmm.
um, I have been feeling kind of like the sword,
Yeah.
a lot of battling going on.
Yeah.
And I have been trying to lay down that sword,
Mm.
and hence I think the reversal.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be so as engaged and wanting to go out and fight. So
Hmm.
that is the King of Swords reversed. My best course of action was Seven of Cups reversed.
Oh,
And I like Seven of Cups because I view it as the daydreaming card,
yeah, yeah.
all these things in front of you. And in its reversal, I always say, stop daydreaming and start doing.
Mm.
Take a cup. I think it was trying to tell me you have your Christa interview today. So
Yeah.
there's and then I have some videos I want to make for the channel. And I've had ideas in like seven different documents, Word documents.
Seven.
And yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
seven. And so I need today just to create an outline. Again,
Hmm.
taking my dreams, making it reality.
Yeah.
And I need to learn the purl stitch. I've learned the knit stitch, and I need to actually learn
Mm.
the purl stitch.
Hmm.
So that and my purpose is Four of Wands reversed,
Mm.
which I take as, again, I have a lot of people in turmoil around me,
Mm.
and so
Hmm.
I think that's the reversal. But
Yeah.
I'm also blessed that I have a lot of wonderful people around me, and that's that wonderful, lush Four of Wands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I took the card. And then honestly, I, this, I forgot about this interview.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And my husband and I are walking our dog and we come back and I suddenly it just like hits me.
Hmm.
And so, I'm like, I'm not prepared. And so I threw a quick card down and it was Ten of Wands reversed. It was like, oh, girl, don't worry. Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
worry. Just,
Yeah.
just drop all the worries, throw your ideas out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta warn you, Krista, I could talk about tarot all freaking days. So,
That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's a language. And once you kind of like fall into that, one of the questions that I sent you previous to this recording was like, are you able to take your tarot glasses off? Like it's hard once you see through kind of the lens of tarot as an archetype or tarot just as a kind of like a filter from which you see the world. It's hard to extract yourself. I think it's important to try to, because to me, this kind of goes into another question I was going to ask, is you got a couple of reversals today. So, and you explained how you can interpret a reversal, how you read reversals. So if you can answer that, like, are you able to take your tarot lens off when you look at the world consciously, or are you able to kind of see it with just as kind of cold and transparently without any sort of archetypal meaning? It's hard to like take it off, take that filter off once you have had 35 years of practice of it. The second part of that question is, can you extrapolate a little bit more on other ways that you would read a reversal? Because that was the question that I like to just ask people, how you use reversals, if you use them at all.
Oh, I use them a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of reversals. What was the first part of the question again? Oh,
Are you the
lens.
glasses? Yeah, the lens.
I think it has come and gone in
Mm.
intensity. I think when I'm
Hmm.
much more in deep study or reflection and really happening, it really infuses my existence a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I do tarot to live. I don't live to do tarot.
Mm.
So,
Nice.
so honestly, I welcome any insight if I'm moving through the day. I tend to
Hmm.
just experience the day, and then the insight comes to me, and
Yeah.
like, oh, kind of that. Oh,
Hmm.
oh, I see that Hierophant reversed. So
Yeah.
I will. It's almost like when you have, I think, a deep faith, is
Hmm.
that it after a while it just informs you without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
And what I do like about tarot very much is that it's all about intent.
Mm.
What is your intent? And I always feel like if you go, tarot will show you the best intent. That I think it
Mm.
will show you the best way to move forward. Jumping to reversals. I love reversals
Hmm.
because it's just more information.
Yeah.
It's not, it can be negative, but there's some reversals you want, like the
Hmm.
Three of Swords reversed.
Mm.
I want those knives falling out of my heart. I
Yeah.
want you, it's reversed. You're beginning to move past the grief.
Hmm.
Same with Ten of Swords. The sun, if it's reversed, that those knives are falling out of your back and the sun is
Yeah.
beginning. So there is, it's almost like with the tens, it can be like the ending after an ending. It can be accepting that the end has truly happened.
Mm.
So I think it can be very helpful. I don't think people should be scared of them
Hmm.
because it does, again, it's more information. Um, but experience is very nuanced.
Right.
Um, and so like a negative can actually be a positive.
Hmm.
Did that answer the
Yeah,
question?
well, in a way, like we learn so much from mistakes or failures or delay. Like if I think about it as like the ebb and flow of, the waves in the ocean, like we only have the flow because it has ebbed at one point. Like there is that back and forth, and it's almost like a weaving or a stitch, like a pearl stitch, it's like you need to have that one exists because of the other. The Three of Cups, is nothing if it doesn't have, some Five of Cups coming later. Like we have to have a little bit of that nuance of experience. And yeah, that was great. I'm always curious of like how people look at reversals, if it's a pause, if it's antithetical to the original meaning, like how far do you stretch it? Um, Another question that I put in there is like, have you ever, in astrology, we have like astrology good moments, like even if it wasn't subjectively good, have you ever had like a tarot good moment, like pulled a card that got your attention and has seen it like exemplified in your day pretty loudly?
Uh, when COVID hit, end of
Mm-hmm.
March 2020, I think,
Yep.
I got the tower like every 3 days.
Mm.
It was bananas, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was, of course, extremely accurate.
Yeah.
And years ago, I got divorced and very young, and as I was going through it, and I moved into my own place, I got the Knight of Swords. I
Mm.
kept getting the Knight of Swords. I was charging ahead. I
Mm-hmm.
was just cutting ties. I was sticking up for myself. I was charging ahead. So I think I always get a lot of information when the same card pops up a lot. There was one party. I don't really do parties very often anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a wonderful woman, Amy, and I have done her Halloween party for a number of
Mm-hmm.
years. And part of it is she's this amazing group of friends. But the first time I did this Halloween party, I'm sitting there and then Batman sits down and I give him a reading. And
Yeah,
Batman
yeah.
sits down and it
Yeah.
was hysterical. And I think everyone felt very free because
Mm.
they were wearing masks
Hmm.
so they could drop their masks.
Yeah.
Those readings were fire.
Hmm.
It was just, when it's really
Yeah.
cooking and people were there. It was a magical
That's
evening.
right.
It was really just sublime. Uh,
When
yeah,
you read for a group of people, do you find that like a card or a series of cards might keep showing up?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
What's also interesting, and when you read at a party, is this has happened to me a few times. When you get a couple, say the
Mm.
wife
Hmm.
and the husband, if they're having marital problems,
Mm.
because you get both sides of it.
Yeah.
And you have to be, and usually I can, you'll figure out pretty quick, oh, this must be the wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you just have to read clean. You can't,
Hmm.
take that information. It informs you. But, I'm always rooting for them to get back together, but I can't put that in a
Yeah.
party
Yeah.
together. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. Do you have like personal cards that kind of show up for you or have like waves of cards? Because I pull the tower all the time. Like the tower is in tarot, it's or in astrology, it's Mars, right? And I'm a Scorpio rising, so I'm Mars ruled. So the tower is like it's all about just like, transformation and like not letting energy build up too unsustainably and just crash it down and let it release. And it's to me, it's like a purging, it's a cleansing. The tower, I take it seriously, but it doesn't like hit me as tenderly as like the five of coins does. Person, like that's the one I'm like, oh. But so the tower is kind of like I take it and I'm like, let's march forward, let's go forward, let's do this. So I pull it a lot.
Mhm.
But I'll have waves where a card will just keep showing up. And so I wonder if you have like signature cards that follow you or signature cards that kind of follow you in seasons. Like, do you have ones that like feel like they're your friends or feel like they're your guardian angels to some degree that like kind of haunt you is the word I think I used earlier.
Mhm. I love the Queen of Pentacles.
Mm,
And when she shows up, it's a card that very much grounds me
yeah.
because also I have OCD. I have an anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And when that kind of gets too bad, I get very grounded
Mm,
by my physical world. I love
mm-hmm.
textiles and fabrics and warm lighting and the comforts,
Yeah.
the cozy comforts, and that helps. And when I get the Queen of Pentacles, it's like I know what to do. I know to take
Mm,
this, my body and the world. I just adore her.
yeah.
I get a lot of queens. I really
Yeah.
might get a lot of queens.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I can't say any one particular card outside of my card for the year. Uh,
Mm,
I'm in my Hanged Man year, and that has been showing up a lot. Last year was my
mm-hmm.
Justice year, so that was showing up a lot. And so yeah, I
And
hope
how
that
do you
answers
choose
your
that? Is it through numerology or is it how do you choose
math.
your year?
Yeah, it's math.
Okay.
It's on my Contemporary Tarot website. Basically, you add your birthday, your birth
Mm-hmm.
month, and the year
Mm-hmm.
2025.
Fair enough.
Total those
Yeah.
and then reduce it down. It's pretty straightforward. You
Yeah.
can get two numbers, like you could get 13 death, and that can reduce to Emperor 4.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um, I take the I take the final one, the
Yeah.
final number, which would be the
Mm-hmm.
smallest number.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. So I'm in my Hangman year, and it's spending a lot of time with that.
Mm-hmm.
And being in that Hangman year, that helped me propel me to start posting videos again on my channel because
Yeah.
I took a sabbatical. Oh God, 2 years or something maybe,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful. I mean, I
Mm,
needed to take time away. But anyway, I'm
yeah.
wandering away.
No, that's
Christa,
great. I mean, it reminds me of like, so let's talk about your YouTube channel. Like, what prompted you to start one, and what were the first ones that you put out there? Like, what was the impetus to begin the channel, to speaking to the public? Were you doing that in tandem with reading for other people, or was it kind of a replacement for that?
a little bit of both. I realized it was 8 years ago.
Wow.
What it was very selfish. I was diving back into tarot, just, because you come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Just a moment. And I started going to YouTube, and YouTube, this was 8 years ago, so it was
Mm-hmm.
not as big, but it was pretty big.
Yeah.
And I went looking for descriptive videos.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I was looking for a high priestess, and all the videos I landed on were 20 minutes, 30
Mm.
minutes. And they were lovely. It was great stuff, but I didn't have time for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew what the card meant. I just wanted just kind of a refresher.
Keywords. Yeah.
Words. And so I thought if I want it, other people want it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make a convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, my mother always said, you're always really good at just summarizing things, just
Mm.
taking a story and just pulling it together in a synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I kind of took that and just started recording. I just said, I'll just do the whole deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny if you would see the earlier ones, I'm playing a little bit, with zooming in and out. And then
Yeah.
the later ones, I'm just, I maybe throw on lipstick.
Right.
And you'll also, because it took a couple of years, maybe 2 years to post the whole deck.
Mm.
And so you also see like my hair changing.
Yeah. Your background
Yeah,
changed.
my back is kind of
Yeah.
cold and so it's kind of like watching Barbara Walters interviews over the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I do remember my husband and I were so excited when I got 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
I was just like, honey, I've got 100 subscribers. I was just floored.
Yeah.
And then honestly, during COVID, the channel also really took
Mm.
off
Mm-hmm.
because people at home, lots of obvious reasons. And we were all struggling and looking for insight and help.
Yeah.
That was really, I felt like I was helping. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I cannot say the community. We hear about trolls and things.
Mm-hmm.
The Contemporary Tarot subscriber and viewing community, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They all just, I think because it's sort of a specific niche of like
Mm-hmm.
short description of tarot cards, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very narrow window there. But I think part of it is if you're doing tarot, you're seeking self-knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Just the act of it indicates you're open to getting information.
Yeah.
Means you're an open person,
Yeah.
just by the nature of picking up the deck and trying it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, something about what you do that I like that you're leaving the door open. So, like in the little white book that's in whatever tarot deck you get, that was just an ossified opinion by the person that wrote those descriptions, right? I mean, granted, you can glean some things out of it, but it's so distilled. It's like writing horoscopes. It's incredibly complex information distilled down to a single week or a month or even a year for a sign. But what I appreciate about your channel is that you do give descriptions from your own experience and kind of what's collective, but then your best course of action is to me like your crowning jewel. It's like, here's what you can do. You can like, it's not just you close the book and you're like, well, I got the death card. It's like, what can you do now? Like you invite the listener, the reader to have some sort of agency with the cards that I feel like it leaves them open to, well, maybe I don't like it, or maybe I love it, but I still get to do something about it. And it's an empowering way to look at tarot, which I think is ultimately the best way, because people, some people that I read for either astrologically or tarot, they're straight up scared. They're frightened of their situation, or they're frightened to have the reflection of the tarot reflect back that they are scared, or they have anxiety, or that they don't want to know the answer, but they're asking for help. And so even if they're not ready for the answer, if you give them something to then go do, put something in their hands, some sort of tool in their hands, I think it's just so beautiful, because it's not like you close the book and you're like, well, that's just your fate. It's like, yes, it's probably your fate, but maybe you can shake your fist at the gods a little bit with the cards at hand, and I really appreciate that you have that best course of action, both for upright and reversal, because it's like it gives you some, and whenever I would listen to the card, I would listen to both, whether I got it upright or reversed, because it adds kind of a little fragment or nuance or another a chiseled edge to the crystal to kind of see the light coming through. It just adds a little bit of context to the card. So I've always appreciated that. Just having that best course of action. It's great that you put that in your 3 card spread. It's like, because you give that to yourself. Like, I think that's wonderful.
That was refining that position
Mm.
was kind of a turning point for me as
Mm.
well. And if I ever write a book, I will do it's going to be called Best Course of Action
Mm-hmm.
because I view tarot in my mind's eye as it's a map of the terrain that
Mm-hmm.
you're navigating. And so you can see it gives you, oh, that path is rocky. That might be easier. I'm going to be facing this obstacle. So it's just more information
Mm-hmm.
to help you navigate how you're
Yeah.
moving forward. People love the outcome card because they
Mm.
want the answer.
Just give me the answer. Skip to the end.
I almost never do outcome. Be-
Yeah.
It's because it's really it's about process, about
Mm-hmm.
what to do. Um, I am going to pivot. I have a video coming up of what I call the stuck cards
Mm.
because I find first a reading can be very validating, first off.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, when they're in deep stress or distress, mostly reading is almost always validating, like
Right. You're
just, yeah,
seen. I see you. Yeah.
yeah. But I think that the hardest part of tarot is when you are encouraged to do nothing.
Mm.
We all want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain cards like Eight of Swords with the blindfold and her hands are tied. And if that's your best course of action, don't do anything. Just
Yeah.
still just you're tangled up. And I think there are a number of those, I call them stuck cards. And to
Mm.
ask best course of action and to be told, don't do anything, or you're
Mm.
supposed to be in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to not know. There's
Mm.
not enough information. You have to wait. That's hard for people, but
Yeah.
can be a very protective action, a safe action.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time I was reading for a man years ago, and he was a corporate guy,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a merger and people were getting cut, and you could tell he was stressed, and he got best course of action was Seven of Swords,
Mm.
which was me like, keep your head down.
Mm.
Just, you know, stay as far away from the battle as you can. So
Mm.
oftentimes these stuck cards, these cards that they can be saviors
Mm-hmm.
because we just want to do sometimes you shouldn't do for your
Yeah.
best interest.
Well, it's interesting because how I look at the Hanged Man is, and that story of water is like sometimes, the act of surrendering is necessary, but
Mhm.
surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It's to surrender. It's to like flow around. So how do you see the Hanged Man specifically? And if you're drawn to like help guide people, like do you see the Hanged Man's influence there? Because that's the first thing that came up to mind. And so I guess this is more a question of like, how do you interpret the Hanged Man generally, and then specifically with your year, and then this new video that you're making.
Um, I will. The first part of this hangman year was it was very clear that I love to share and help people and communicate, that I was hurting people by helping them. I
Mm.
needed to let people be on their own journeys
Uh,
to adult children.
mm-hmm.
And the more I help them, the more I hurt them. They're
Mm.
capable, independent people. And my husband's retired recently. He has a journey. So, first off, I've been very much just hands off
Mm.
for other people. And that
Yeah.
give me the room to get that beautiful halo and look at
Mm-hmm.
things in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a cabin in Wisconsin, central
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin. And if you're not in the United States, it's sort of the center of the United States, near Lake
And up.
hot, cold,
Yeah.
uh, and wonderful. But I've been getting some time up, making time up here of just me alone.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the hanged man just hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
looking at things differently, trying to flip the script,
Yeah.
what how I view things. I think this is also going to be very important as the world is rather volatile right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's also advice in that to look at the change I can do. It might not be the same as what I've done before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only a couple of months into my hangman year, but I'm trying to do a lot of yoga too, because when I see hangman, it's a variation almost,
Oh yeah. It's
you know.
it's a nice inversion.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing, like an inversion pose.
While
Uh,
we're talking, I'm just gonna share the image of the hanged man, so I'll make it nice and
Absolutely
big. I put these so that they're, let me
beautiful.
do this. Um,
Love these cards. Good golly.
I pulled the world today, I pulled the world in the chariot, which I
Oh,
love.
nice. Nice.
um, well, just thinking of like the hanged man is here. What comes after the hanged man is the death card. So it is like the beginning of some sort of transformative, process, like you say. It comes right
I
after justice, but
I want to go back to justice because
mm,
justice was
mhm.
previous year. And at first I didn't like it. I was like, justice, it's not exactly fun, right?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
great, but she's just, kind of prim. But then I really leaned in and trying to be really logical
Mm,
about the choices I was making, working at being fair to myself and fair to other people. It really kind of kept me from spinning out too much,
mm,
hanging on to this card in
mhm.
my mind that, yet no, you can keeping balance, keeping things straight for the people around me as well.
Yeah.
So I think it really helped, gave me a firm foundation
Mhm.
this hangman year, because I feel like I really got things into order in
Mm,
my life
mhm.
and feel good where I was at the end of the year. And so now I can, yeah, jump out of the chair and flip on my head. So, okay, let's go to death. Do you want to go to the death
Yeah,
card?
yeah.
Oh, people, I love this.
I
Sun.
love the death
Oh
card.
my God. First, I'm going to go through the visual. Just look at, okay, if you look at this card, the only things that are dead, really, the only thing that is dead is the old way of doing things.
Mm,
The king on the ground, that he's dead. Everyone else, we got a sleeping one. The subconscious is
mm,
asleep but functioning. We have the child holding the gift up. They're
mhm,
alive and kicking with that secret that's in that bag. Then we have the Pope or the Hermit,
mhm,
indicating that this is a spiritual journey. He's upright and alive, and this skeleton who's very active.
mm,
I've often said that this is a card of transformation, but it almost is the moment where you let go of the old thing and before you transform into the new thing.
mm,
That it's like the horse is poised, that front paw, front hoof
mhm.
has to step down, but it's that moment between the before and the ahead. And then if you
Yeah,
look at that gorgeous gateway in the back with the sun
yeah.
missing,
It's like the moon.
I view it as the sun. The sun is
Well,
wise.
the tower of the moon with the sun. So it's like these sense of time and yeah, yeah. The moon
Yes.
towers, yeah.
And I've often viewed death as the garden where you can't grow new things
Mm,
until like the old things have been weeded out and died.
yeah.
And when the seeds are in the ground, you don't know what's going to grow. This
Hmm.
is that moment.
Yeah.
And where you become unrecognizable to yourself because you don't know what you're going to become.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Okay.
What's your sense of it's a skeleton wearing armor?
Yeah,
What's he
yeah.
protecting? What's he protecting there?
I think that core self,
Mm,
you just burnt down to the bone of who your essence of who,
hmm.
and you're going to fight for yourself. You're
Yeah.
carrying a flag. You're carrying that flag with that white rose, the white purity, and the rose just, lush. Um,
Hmm.
but it is, uh, you're fighting for yourself for this
Yeah.
transformation. See, I know
Yeah.
like that. Yes. Yeah. It's a,
There's a painting. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and there's all these art galleries there. There's one, it's the Telfair Art Museum, and there's this painting that was painted by Julian. I'll put a link in it because it's called the Black Prince of Crecy, and it's a dark black prince, and there's a white king he has killed that's in front of him, and there's sunrise, and there's these crows that are flying, and it was an enormous painting. It was like 27 feet by 13 feet, and it was painted in the 1880s. And I would, as a little kid, I would sit on this circular round red velvet couch and just stare up at this painting. And this tarot card just brings that back of just this, it's like a moment of the inevitable change in life, like that compost pile or that dark seed sprouting under the ground. We can't necessarily see it. It is part of the cycle of life. It's why we enjoy life, is because we have it. It's temporary, like it's not forever. If it was forever, we would, not really hold it so sacred. So yeah, I love the death card as that reminder of, carpe diem, enjoy it while you can, because, we don't necessarily always enjoy the transformative moments, but they are just as vital. I haven't really there's something about the skeleton wearing armor that just puzzles me still. And I don't know if he's still following protocol and duty and tradition, or that what you said about the white flower and the purity of being down to that core self. It's like, I am my core self under all of this, despite it. But it's funny to me. It cracks me up that he's wearing armor because he's a skeleton. He has no guts. What is he trying to protect? But to me, it's like there's these layers as you spend time with tarot that just kind of reveal themselves through time. I like the little red feather in his cap. It reminds me of the red and the sun card. Like there's these little tiny little weaving things that come together. So yeah, thanks for the Hanged Man and death. I know it's hard to foresee next year, but do you see things happening now as being part of this continuation of a story? Because no card is in isolation. No year is isolated from the year prior.
Knowing I'm going into death, I try not to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
Let's just do what we're, the year I'm in now.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to go back, just you looking at the painting, because one time I went to the Art Institute and I wore the tarot lens, and
yeah.
And it's a beautiful museum in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw these, I started seeing everything kind of through the eyes. I saw like the sun was in one painting. And I think I did a video about it on Contemporary Tarot. But I want to do another video about people using tarot as an artistic prompt.
Yeah.
Because it surprises me that there hasn't been more like film and TV exploration, because I think it's just the stories that are just in each card.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is the painting. Yeah. And that he's off the horse, but the Black Prince and the White King, and it's, dawn on one end and dark on the other. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you put on those glasses, you begin.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. I just got a wonderful artist friend of mine who passed about a year ago, Kat Zorko. She created these tarot stay right here. They're right here. Oh, all right. I got these. And these are, she made these little tiles, all of the major arcana. And it's just, fine. They're just these little tiles.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Is just extraordinary. And so anyhow, I'm intrigued by people's artistry and how they, so yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love that. That's why the temperance card specifically, after I invited you and I was like, this is one of the things that I love to do, is just talk to people about, their practices and how they pull in the source of light, whether it's divination or oracle work, or and that'll lead me to my next question. But blending these two, and to me, temperance is that art of blending and fusing, and the alchemy of blending practices, whether it's pottery or weaving or painting or photography. That I think that, like, it's a living thing. It's not just Pamela Coleman Smith's paintings or the Marseille deck of just being stuck in that one interpretation. It's like we see it in life, and then we can express it through art. So my next question, which is kind of the big one, is like, how do you explain tarot? Where do you think it comes from? Like, how do you think it works?
Uh, always that it always comes up. First off, I've been thinking about this, and I actually have a kind of a new take that I've been
Hmm.
exploring. Is first off, I need to confess something. I am a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
Every
I love
time,
that.
every time
Yeah.
I do reading, there's this little Madeline on here saying, "This doesn't work. It just can't work."
Yeah.
It's still to this day. So I get
I
it.
think that's very healthy.
Oh God. Um, what I've really come to think about tarot is that there are things that are created
Mm-hmm.
by humans that transcend their mere existence. There are Chinese writings, there's I Ching, there's the Bible, there's the Quran, there's the Torah, there's medicine men and artifacts in indigenous cultures. There are things that somehow connect us to the bigger experience, and these
Mm-hmm.
kind of most of them are texts. I think some are objects, and they are created, but they grow bigger. And it's Shakespeare too. You can read Shakespeare and it just keeps revealing itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that are created that touch on something deeper,
Yeah.
and that create this thing that keeps revealing itself to you. And it can be in multiple different traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Eastern culture has so much of this that we as Westerners just aren't familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
But scrolls, there's just so much that people shape their worldview around. A lot of it's organized religion, but a lot of it is not organized religion. And
Mm-hmm.
I think tarot fits into that it was created first as they say that deck of cards in Italy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But between people coming together and creating this meaningful, eternal sort of artifact that represents all aspects of the human experience,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's grown to be something bigger. How does it work? I don't know. How
Yeah.
does meditation work? How does prayer work? How does existential experience work? How does the creative process work? There is
Mm.
that unknown. But the proof is in the pudding. Like I have friends who love Shakespeare, live in Shakespeare, read Shakespeare their whole lives, and that gives them this existential bigger experience.
Mm.
I think all of us groups, we have to just give people what gives you that.
Yeah.
Could be, I have one woman, dear friend, Jamie O'Meara, who's gone, but she was a wonderful Catholic. She
Mm-hmm.
was just a one, and that tradition just filled her life.
Yeah.
And so I think same with tarot. You do try it, and if it doesn't speak, it's not going to speak to everyone, but it
Yeah.
speak to a lot of people. But if you want my answer, if you shuffle a certain way, it's not a science,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of life isn't a science.
Yeah.
So I'm still working on it. 40 years,
Yeah.
girl, still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that in a sense is great, because it's like, if you haven't decided, or decided it's a final answer, I think that's probably, it keeps you curious. So to not know is a good thing. It makes you wonder. And I think to continue to wonder, you can surprise yourself. I was thinking about this a couple days ago. I pulled the Two of Swords, And I, texted it to my girlfriend chat of, like, this is what I pulled today. And they had all pulled it too. Like, we all pulled two cards and they had pulled it, and like, what's your sense of it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I have these ideas of what it means to me. It's a card that I pull often. I like it. I like the card. It's a card that when I pull for other people, they don't like it. And that always puzzles me. I really appreciate this card. And I was sitting there. I had left an Aldi. I was taking some groceries back to my parents after visiting them. And I was sitting there waiting to turn left. And I was like, what's the point of this card? What are the points of this card? Thinking of the end of the point, of the sword. And I was staring across the street at the intersection. It was a condominium called Hidden Points. and I would just laughed, and I was like, I should be careful not to assume that I know what the answer of the card is for me and other people. I should always be open to being surprised, because tarot cracks me up. Like, I see it and it just cracks me up of like, that's not anything what I was thinking it would be. I would not think that it would like be humorous, because it's like this, kind of a serious, very sacred card. But I think just being open to what the interpretation of the cards, and then what tarot is in general. Like, I don't know either. And I love reading for skeptics. Whenever I read at parties, I always get like the reluctant boyfriend whose girlfriend had a great reading and she made him sit down. And I love reading for them, because I'm like, I don't know how this works either. But there's something about the visuals. And if the visuals come up and you have a question, you have to tell me what the question is, because I'm not going to be able to help you very much if you don't tell me. But your own experience with what the visuals stimulate, it's just tapping into something inside of you. Call it the subconscious, call it, id, whatever you want to call it scientific or not scientific. It's connecting with you. I can't explain it. And I'm kind of fine to not be able to explain it. So I appreciate your answer, because it's like, you see it work, you don't know how it works. It's good to be skeptical, and we enjoy it. It's not like it's grueling work necessarily.
I gotta say, Two of Swords, I always have a little shorthand in my head. Is for me, that's be in the question. It's a friend of mine saying, just don't have to have an answer, just be in the question.
I love that. Yeah.
And one more thing, we got to go back to temperance. I had a temperance epiphany about a week ago. I'm walking along and I was flowing with making my videos. And I was, what is, the state of flow? What is a card that represents the state of flow? And it's temperance.
Yeah.
Because it's like you are working, but it's magical, right? Because the water's flowing from one to the other. But if you look at it, the water should like fall down.
Yeah.
It's floating through the air. So there's magic through active work. There's magic in the combining and the use of your skill. Yes. So temperance has been on my mind. She's lovely.
Well, I just did a couple months ago. I've been kind of interviewing other astrologers about this different signs and using the decans, the 3 tarot cards that are associated with each sign. And the temperance for Sagittarius, I asked, my guest, Ola Bempe, about the temperance cards. Like, what's your keywords of this card? And she shared that in India, there to make chai masala, they kind of mix the drinks out of 2 cups. And she said, if you see how they traditionally make it, it looks like it defies gravity. And she said it looks exactly like the temperance card. And I love that, just in action of like having this almost like, when if you throw pizza dough up in the air, it's like, how does that work? It's like the motion and the flow and the action and all the ingredients that led to that point where you could flip a pizza dough in the air, or you could like pour gravity defying delicious tea. It's just like, that is life, it's the movement. And it's that's definitely an action card, as opposed to, sometimes your best action is, a 4 of swords, it's to rest. Or sometimes your best action is a reversal. It's like, just let the wands fall on the ground, because you're not be able to carry them anyway. It's like I like that tarot speaks to all of life, and that we can see it in everyday life, and these little hilarious or beautiful moments of chai masala being made, defying the gravity. So yeah, that was, tarot is all about tangents too. So apologies for the tangent talks. I'm just looking over my notes. Other practices that you might have, like do you use astrology or numerology? You mentioned I Ching. Have you worked with I Ching as long as tarot?
Uh, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say, yeah. I'm not as attached to I Ching
Hmm.
is if I'm traveling. I don't when I travel too. Yeah, I find it's like supplemental material to the tarot
Hmm.
reading.
Mm-hmm.
It's like additional reading, when you were in high school and they'd give you this, and here's additional reading.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it always augments my the tarot read.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Do
yeah.
you use coins? Do you throw coins for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, pennies.
Yeah.
But I do want to just talk about, I've been thinking a lot about just the physical act. I've been paying attention to the attention economy, is how our attention is being pulled by screens.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that tarot is great because there's a physical connection. It
Mm.
forces you to be present in your body
Mm.
as you shuffle the cards and turn them over.
Yeah.
Uh, you can do it, and I've been asked, can I do, have a website, give me a reading? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can that, but I feel like the digital adds a veil.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And even this wonderful interview, it does add veil
Yeah.
between you and I.
Yeah.
And while I think you can, get great fruitful things through this, there's something about the tactile, the physical, the
Mm.
being in the same space with the cards, being in the
Mm-hmm.
space with the being with another person. And I think more and more in this very chaotic, attention-driven economy, to create just even a little space for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and your journey, and just to be in your body and do it. I think it can be a helpful anchor
Yeah.
in these turbulent waters. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
also
love
think
that.
a lot of women in my website or my YouTube channel, it's about 80% women, 20%
Mm-hmm.
men, which I think is pretty standard. I think also a tarot deck can fit in an apron pocket.
Mm.
It can be it can be something that women can carry with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's discreet,
Yeah.
and it can be just for you,
Yeah.
so if in a dangerous or difficult or crazy is something that can be kept just for you.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just the side it's just like a deck of cards,
Mm-hmm.
big deck, but a deck of cards.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I pulled it out, like I don't drink anymore, but my husband plays music, so I'm in bars, often. And, whenever I would pull it out, just to pull a card for the bartender or whatever, it's all like, the women flock up of like, oh, what are you doing? It's like this, like, it's an invitation. That's what it is, and sure, there are many in real life trolls that come up. Usually they're men but that to me, like, I appreciate the troll and the skeptic because they're still engaging. They want to know, and they don't know, they don't have the language yet, and they want to engage, but they don't know how to do it except to be a jerk. So it's like, come here, jerk, like, you have just as much access to it. It's kind of like, let me surprise you, let's laugh at this together. But like, that's going to be a doorway into cracking open, your mind, because like the reason why you're engaging is because you're curious too. And to be curious is like, that to me is an open door of, even if it's just to have fun, like you can have fun with it. um I always have a tarot deck in my purse. Often I have it in my glove box. So this goes into other questions like, do you use primarily Rider Waite Smith? Do you have other decks that you like to use? And do you use the Thoth deck at all?
I am a traditionalist. I use the Rider-Waite-Smith. I
Mm-hmm.
like the universal Rider-Waite-Smith. There's
Mm-hmm.
the regular one and then the universal one, which I
Mm-hmm.
think the color palette's just a little bit more elegant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a cabin deck, I have a deck at home, then I have a deck in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter gave me the Witch's Tarot, which is a riff on Rider-Waite-Smith,
Mm-hmm.
but with kind of a little more feminist. And it's
Yeah.
much more diverse. It's just a lovely deck, and that's my bedroom deck at home.
Yeah.
But I don't, the Thoth deck, and there are a bunch of I have a friend who uses Aquarian deck. I You begin to gather a lot of decks if
Mm-hmm.
you open that door.
Mm-hmm.
I just need my basics.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't hear that wild.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yesterday on my car ride home, I had my Rider-Waite Smith because I prefer that. That's like my go-to deck. It's the one that's just the most comfortable for me. I collect a lot of decks and I let a lot of them go if I don't resonate with them. I have a dragon tarot that I always use during eclipses because eclipses have dragon energy about them. And Ayurvedic tradition, it's the head and the tail of the dragon. But I went through and I pulled the tower and I was like, I'm just gonna tower down my deck. I'm going to put everything in order. I'm going to make everything as like, and then I'm going to just like disrupt it and like break that energy up. And I could not find the 6 of Cups. And I was like, did it disappear? Like I didn't notice that it disappeared. I pull it a lot. I pull that card often. And so I went through it over and over and over and over again. And then it just popped up. It was behind the Queen of Pentacles. It was just kind of stuck to it. But yeah, I have preference of that one, and I'm just always curious if people, if you use that one, if you use other ones, like
yeah,
if you're a collector or a pass through. I feel like I'm a pass through. People give me decks, and then I either use them or not, and then pass them on to others if they don't resonate. Have you ever dressed up as a card, either on purpose or found yourself to look exactly like a card?
yes, one time it was during my hermit year. It was during COVID. And I remember I was standing in the kitchen and I had gray yoga pants on
Mm-hmm.
and a gray hoodie, and I had
Mm-hmm.
like the hood up, and I think I had something in my hand, and maybe a phone, maybe like a candle or something I picked up. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm the hermit. And I think I made my husband take a picture because I was like, look, I'm the hermit.
That's
So
great. That's
I have
awesome.
never intentionally dressed up as a,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a little thing that I would like tarot to be more mainstream. I think
Mm.
it is a wonderful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does have kind of the tradition of the gypsy fortune teller with the
Yeah, yeah.
pen and the beads. And well, I understand that impulse. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of a caricature.
Yeah.
It cheapens the what it can give.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I've read at parties, I've never dressed up. Even at the Halloween party I go to
Mm-hmm.
at
Yeah.
Amy's, I don't dress up. I try to present just normal and professionally,
Yeah.
usually with a scarf and earrings, though. But I would like people to just make it just a little bit more mainstream. So
Mm-hmm. I agree. I've done that for events, and I have another one coming up. Actually, on the eclipse in March, I have one coming up, and uh, I'm a flamboyant dresser anyway. I love bright colors. I love big patterns. But when I read tarot, it is stripped down. It's like because I take it very seriously, and I come from I was raised in a very religious family, and I understand that anything that doesn't seem normal is like the work of the devil, or it's evil, or it's witchcraft, or there's something wrong with it. And while I think that I see some people that have displays and they have, it does feel like kind of like they're dressing up as a character, and they have their Om symbol or their moonlights and they have their batik, and it just feels like it fits a formula. And just inherently defiant of any sort of formula that has to be set. And so if you dress like a hippie or you have a display that looks just so woo, I live in Asheville, North Carolina. It's like woo central. So it's all over the place anyway. And some people find that comfort because you're creating an atmosphere of like, this is kind of different work, it's occult work, it's oracle work, it's divination, whatever. But I look at it and I'm like, I want to talk to the normies. I want to talk to people that have never experienced this before. I want to make it as neutral and open and kind of normalized, because to me it is very normal and I take it seriously. I'm not going to have a crystal ball in front of me. Sure, I might have some selenite in my pocket, but I'm not going to like have it as if it's like I'm not cosplaying a fortune teller. And
Yes.
so I appreciate that, because I feel like some people do that to create a mood, to create an atmosphere of like, this is tarot, this is, very special. But to me, I'm like, I feel like I look like a joke, because that's not authentically who I am. If I'm reading for a client, I'm not dressing up. I'm just dressing as myself. And I'm taking it, and to me, I feel like I get more skeptics that way, which I like. I really do like reading for people that are so suspicious of it, because tarot's going to speak to them too, whether they like it or not. And if I can crack open and reach outside of a woo bubble to kind of like a stockbroker or a priest or a normie, which I mean, my first reading last year was for a priest, read tarot and astrology. And I was like, I love that I can just engage with that, because it is for everybody. To me, it's like the people's medicine. It's like herbalism. It's for anyone. And if we create these imaginary boundaries, like if you're only cool or woo or hippie enough to like have access to this table, a lot of people are not comfortable with that. And my role in it is to just be that comfortable place that someone can sit down, that is a skeptic, that doesn't feel embarrassed to sit at a table with moonlights. And granted, like, that's what my house looks like, but when I go out into the public, I'm not going to bring that up to the public.
I think that too, as readers,
Hmm.
uh, it's not about us.
Right.
And that's what in the Contemporary Tarot channel, I've really tried to keep it not about me. It's
Yeah.
just about the cards. And then when
Hmm.
I veer off into personal stuff, I try to like tag it as like
Hmm.
behind the scenes or my take. So people know, it's kind of my juicy Madeline stuff. But it
Hmm.
really, meat of things, it's about the person you're with. It's
Yeah.
not about us. It's just we're just helping interpret the cards
Yeah.
for I have one question for you. As
Sure.
I'm going to take a poll on my subscribers too. Is I'm trying to think of how to refer to myself because tarot reader isn't quite right.
Hmm.
Tarot practitioner, I practice for myself, but not for
Hmm.
others. So D is like tarot analyst, tarot. I have no idea what to call myself.
Well, I heard T. Susan Chang call herself a tarotista, and I have just adopted that. To be a tarotista, it's like a barista. You're a
Mhm.
tarotista. You just read it, and I love that. I don't know where she came up with it or she got it from, but I have totally adopted that, because tarot reader, or it does feel clunky. However, but tarotista has this like nice little like zing to it. So that
Mhm.
would be my vote: is that you are a tarotista.
Glad that- yes.
All right, let me just do you have a library of tarot books that you refer or read? Like, what's your like, how do you stay inspired by it just through the tarot lens?
I have my books, Rachel
Mm.
Pollack, a few others. I really don't refer to them anymore
Yeah.
unless like I've lost, I'm doing some research or something.
Hmm.
Uh, I, it's more just reading the card,
Yeah.
living my life. Like I
Yeah.
said, I do tarot to live. I don't live to do tarot.
Hmm.
It's the practice for me. It will be, 6 minutes in the morning
Hmm.
and I live my life.
Yeah.
And I've put in the book work. And I think everyone you can learn tarot without any reference book. It's that if you really sit
Yes.
and look at it, you can do a new someone that's never seen them before and lay out a reading. If they're open to it, they can figure it out.
Yeah.
It's so descriptive. But yeah, that's it's a part of my life, but it just informs my life. It isn't,
Hmm.
you know, I don't have stacks of tarot books anymore. I have
Yeah.
stacks knitting books now. But it's like, I'm going to figure out Pearl. I'm going to do it.
I'm sure there's a YouTube channel that will show you how to do
There are many.
that.
One that actually worked the best was like knitting for 8-year-olds.
Oh,
So
there you go. Yeah. So the flip side of that book question is you kind of referenced it a little bit, but if you were going to write a book about tarot, would it be instructional? Would it be like a cookbook? Would it be biographical about your story? Like, are you drawn to put down your tarot journey or guidance in book form?
yes, If I did an instructional book, it would be probably called Best Course of Action. I would
Hmm.
try because I think that's a very it's serviceable. It
Yeah.
helps people. And I started it and then it might come. I did write a novel called Three Cups
Mm-hmm.
and really enjoyed that. That was a number of years ago and somewhere in a document file. And, so uh, what was the question? Was that it? I don't know. What did I
Yeah, like
cover it?
if you were to write a book, what would it be?
Oh, yeah. As course of action, I wrote a bad play about tarot, piece novel, and but it would probably be a best course of action book. I don't. I mean, I'm not that interesting. I mean, I am,
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
tarot. It's
Yeah.
it's just people don't need to know about me. I'd like to share my insights, and I do have some expertise,
Hmm.
but don't need a Madeline journal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your YouTube channel. So maybe we can like wrap it up with that. Like tell us about your channel. You started it 8 years ago and you took a like a sabbatical from it and now you're reviving it. What new things are you adding? Are you re-recording the cards? Are you just doing new spreads? Like what's the new version of the channel now?
Yeah, it's called Contemporary Tarot, and it's just I've been adding to it. The meat of it is I call it the Cliff Notes for tarot cards.
Hmm.
It is 3 to 5 minute video descriptions of every single tarot card, and so people when they do their daily reading or whatever, they can just click on it, get 3 minutes, 5 minutes on each card in the spread, just to support people's individual practice.
Yeah.
Then I have things of, for the beginner, how to do a layout, what a layout is. Just I've tried to create a lot of nuts and bolts,
Hmm.
short videos, the ones, and then to me, I can talk about tarot forever. So there'll be a lot. I will not be re-recording the library
Hmm.
because the definitions don't change.
Yeah.
And one time I had recorded, I think it was Two of Wands, a video, and it seemed to disappear from the site. And so I re-recorded a Two of Wands. Then I found the old one. They were virtually identical.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and
Yeah.
it was almost word for word. So
Yeah.
it's like I to re-record it would be ridiculous because it would
Hmm.
just be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Um, why I'm reviving or doing a more serious, I'm calling them the cabin sessions.
Hmm.
And these sessions are just digging into cards, just more
Yeah.
fun. Just I get ideas, I'm sure you do every freaking day.
Mm.
And so I jot them down and hope to share. That's all. I just love
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. So the channel is called Contemporary Tarot. You can find it on YouTube. Are there any other things that you wanted to share? Your website or any other projects, or focus it on the YouTube channel?
I will tell you, visit my website,
Hmm.
Temporary Tarot, but I am feeling the call to not be as involved on the internet.
Mm.
I'm feeling used by algorithms
Mm.
and manipulated, and it's bothering me.
Yeah.
I think that I have a very simple page on Facebook.
Hmm.
And honestly, I don't want to create more content for people to like fall into and not live their lives. I
Yeah.
the YouTube channel is the perfect vehicle.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that people, you do TikTok, do a podcast, the channel's enough.
Yeah.
And people can get a hold of me through that or the website. And I think that's going to be it. That's all
Yeah.
I need. And then do tarot and then go out and live your life. Just
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah. But that's the thing. You have so much. You have the entire of the all of the cards already banked. You've done all of that work. And so I think that library, that body of work is so like there's so much energy and effort that's contained in that I'm glad that you're adding to it, but also glad that you're not trying to just reinvent something. I think it's pretty funny that your recording was basically duplicated. The card was like, I said this.
Well, so I've been doing some addendums, and I
Yeah.
did a Nine of Cups addendums or so. And I think I should go back and watch the original video to make sure I'm not re-saying something I said
Hmm.
5 years ago and I made the video, but one does not like watching oneself after
No.
I have posted it.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but
Yeah.
hey, you do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting and chatting. Maybe at some point that we can meet in person if you're ever down in Asheville. I have family up in the Wisconsin, Minnesota area, so I'll give you a ring if I'm ever close. But thanks just for this. It was just so nice to be able to talk to you in person. And thanks for all of the work and all the guidance. You didn't know that, you were acting as a mentor to me, and I'm sure thousands of other people that watch you. I'm sure you're super comfortable me saying this right now, but like, thank you for being kind of our mentor with tarot, and just having those real accessible nuggets of keywords and inspiration, and the best course of action, kind of invitation to kind of engage with life through tarot. I just, you've done a lot of work already, and I'm glad that you're a part of just my orbit in the tarot world as a tarotista. And yeah, thanks so much just for joining the conversation today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much.
Awesome.
All right.
Like and subscribe.